Hi there guys, what's going on? Welcome to this video. Today is gonna be a long video. It's gonna be about benching and it's gonna be about reaching the 225 pounds bench press for the first time. Reaching this milestone the quickest possible. 225 pounds is 100 kg. If you've been struggling for too long to improve your bench, you want to get a better bench quicker and also not only reach the 225 milestone but also keep improving fast after that, then you're in the right video. For some people who've been gymming for a long time, they might think that 100 kg is not a lot of weight, but if we're all honest with ourselves, that was a big milestone for everyone who's one day been able to reach 100 kg. These are the 3 digits. Every bodybuilder, every powerlifter, when they first start to bench, they want to reach this first milestone. A lot of people never reach this goal. When I reached this goal, I was pretty happy. I remember we were taking a snapshot. I have been benching 100. Finally, I'm quite sure you might be in the same mindset of wanting to get your 225 pounds or 100 kg bench press. Mostly people who started really from the bottom, like me, weighing 80 pounds for a start or 40 kg body weight, very skinny, and their first bench was literally struggling with the empty bar. I know there will be a lot of quote-unquote hard gainers here interested, so we're gonna try to see how fast we can get there as bodybuilders, because we will see obviously as powerlifters there are probably ways to improve faster than bodybuilders, but here we're gonna see as bodybuilders how we can still try to get stronger on the bench as quick as we can without neglecting the part of the hypertrophy work and still build muscle. I'm gonna give you indications on how long it will take to get to this milestone for different types of people, and honestly a ton of value in this video. Even if that lasts for 40 minutes, 50 minutes video, I would advise you to stay, because this might save you a few months down the line if you actually start with the right methods straight away. So reaching the 225 pounds 100 kg bench press as quick as possible, that depends on your starting point. So why do I say your starting point matters? Well, obviously some people will for example have a good sportive past, they will have a great body morphology to start with, which might put them at an advantage to reach this 100 kg bench press quicker than you if you're someone very skinny who has not a lot of strength to start with, perhaps not the greatest morphology, no sportive past, nothing that can basically put you at a slight advantage to actually get there quicker. If I look at people in their 30s when they start the gym, some of them who are quite heavy, they will bench for the first day literally of their gym journey 80 kg for example, while some other people like me, I used to be that guy weighing 40 kg and I was struggling the first time I went on the bench with 3 or 4 reps on the empty bar, and my sister had to go assist me because I was almost dying. When talking about starting point as well, if you're someone who is short in height, this might be harder, because even someone who's got quite a lot of muscle but is short will usually, for example, weigh 65 or 70 kg. And for these people, a 100 kg bench is almost double body weight, which is a great performance. So for these people, it might take longer than for people who are taller and higher in body weight. Although in some cases people that are small might have a better morphology for the bench, but still they weigh quite little, and a 100 kg bench might take longer to reach than the average person who weighs more. So that was the first thing, your starting point. If you're skinny, don't be discouraged. You'll improve pretty quick with the tips I will give you. Implementing strength work to reach the 100 kg bench press quicker. So when you're a total beginner, obviously I want you to first get used to the movements. I want you to start with pretty light weights, to do pretty high reps with these light weights and really get used to basically, training and the movements that you do. And if that's the case for the bench press, I don't want you to go heavy straight away. Get started with this mechanical and neurological adaptation, build a little muscle base, and then start to implement strength work. So after maybe a month, 2 months or 3 months of you're learning the movement, building a bit of muscle, a good foundation, and be neurologically adapted to the movement, start implementing more strength work. Get used to more strength work. So there is a reason why powerlifters are the strongest when it comes to bench press and squat and deadlift. That's because they really focus on this strength training. So basically, powerlifters, by specializing into powerlifting, have this chance of only focusing on strength, but we're still bodybuilders, so we don't fully want to neglect, the hypertrophy part of our workouts, which we'll build muscle with. But it doesn't mean that we should only focus on the hypertrophy part, because as you may know, the stronger you get, more potential you have to build muscle, because that transfers to basically your hypertrophy work. So it will take a bit more time than powerlifters to reach this strength level of 100 kg, but we will still go faster than most people who stay on the pump training and never really start implementing strength training. This is why in my videos I often advise that being a power builder is quite a good thing. You don't just want to do hypertrophy work as a bodybuilder, you also want to gain strength at the same time. And so mixing strength training and hypertrophy training is, in my opinion, a good thing to get faster to your muscle building goals. The reason it might be a bit slower as a bodybuilder to reach this 100 kg goal, or just to improve quicker on movements like bench press, deadlift and squats, is that you're still, as I said, training into your hypertrophy work. You're looking to grow your muscles. And so as a powerlifter, I would say that most of the recovery that you have to make is really nervous, your nervous system. And as a bodybuilder, it's your nervous system, but not only that, your muscle soreness, your muscle have to recover between the sessions. And so if you only do powerlifting, you can often see powerlifters with good optimization, they can basically train more frequently on these movements that they need to improve on. You sometimes see them training 3-4 times a week on bench press, while the bodybuilders, they do their bench press, but they also do a ton of exercises like flies, like dips, etc. for their chest, for example. And so they're tiring themselves more, their muscles more, and they have to basically recover more than powerlifters in that aspect. As I said, most of the mistakes that I see beginners do is that it's good at the start to get used to the movement, start to build some muscle with just pure hypertrophy training, sticking to high reps, etc. But at some point you gotta force it, you gotta force your progression as well, and you're gonna want to start lifting some heavy loads. The issue is that beginners, they get really comfortable with staying with a high rep range, and at the end they're not even really pushing themselves as much as they should, and there is no progression. They don't seek progression, and so they get stuck into this, I go to the gym and I feel a burn, and then they don't really improve. A sick pump doesn't equal progression, and therefore bench press progress and a quicker road to your 100 kg bench press. The next thing that I want to say is that specializing on the bench press movement is something that you might also want to do. What do I mean by specializing? As often in my videos I explain that the more you focus on your goals and focus on what matters, the better you're gonna get there quicker. And here with the bench press, if it is really something that you care about, obviously this is a movement that you really want to be familiar with and that you might really want to specialize in. So in that aspect, I want to say that your programming, for example, has to revolve around the bench. So in your sessions, your chest sessions, you might want to be really focused on the bench press and start by the bench press. You might want to program things in a way that you're not going to do a shoulder session the day before you do your chest if bench press is something that matters for you. So specializing means not only programming around what you care about, which here is bench press and improving quicker on the bench, but it also means that you might want to practice it as much as you can without tiring yourself too much. So this is always, this balance. Where should I be according to my level? How much should I bench? You will see people that are advanced benching 4 times a week, even bodybuilders, not just powerlifters. At some point when I was, more advanced in my training, I would sometimes bench 4 times a week, even though I'm a bodybuilder. And if you're a beginner, you might not want to bench 4 times a week. Exceptions for powerlifters who really, again, this is only what they focus on most of the time, bench press, squat and deadlift, and they train differently with different recovery systems. But here, as a beginner, I'm gonna basically give you, in my opinion, what you should start with. So as a beginner, obviously, I don't want you to force things too much. I want you to do as much as you can on the bench press, but without being ridiculous and hurting yourself. In my opinion, even as a beginner, you can do twice a week. You can bench twice a week. Obviously not everyone is the same, and there might be a small percentage who will be more comfortable with one, but I think that if you can program your training around bench press, optimize well, recover enough for this day where you bench press, you should be able to do twice a week, even as a beginner. Specializing not only means programming well, like I said, around what you want to do the most and optimize everything so you can improve on that, but it also means practicing more the movement of bench press. And like I said, twice a week is a good thing, but then we can go even deeper than that. You can actually do more sets of bench than what's usually standardly recommended. So as a beginner, I would still advise you to stick around. If you're doing a strength cycle, for example, it will be 5 sets or 4 sets per session of bench press, which in my opinion, as a beginner, is enough. You should improve well, and that should be enough. For example, you've already improved to 70 kg, 80 kg bench press, and you're getting closer to 100 kg bench press. Well, there is something you can do as an intermediate, and an advice that I will give for advanced lifters who already bench more than 100 kg is to specialize even more in bench pressing by really doing more sets of bench press than what stereotypically recommended. So you really want to get good at something. Let's get rid of the stereotypes of I'm just doing 4 sets per exercise. If you really want to get good on bench, you can actually do more sets of that. You could replace, for example, a few hypertrophy sets that you were doing on flies to your bench press, or you might simply feel like you can actually do more volume of training and be like, well, I'm going to do more bench now. And so what you can do is your strength program or your standard 4 or 5 sets of bench press, and what you can do is towards your end of your session come back on bench press and do sets of hypertrophy which are more towards the building muscle phase, but at least you're practicing bench press, and that is one of the most important thing. And even if you do higher reps with the bench press, it's still beneficial. You're really working on the movement, you're perfecting your technique, which will transfer to when you go for heavier sets. You're just really becoming a specialist of the movement. You shouldn't neglect that. That's something that I didn't understand until an advanced level, where at some point I would really reduce the amount of bullshit exercise that I would do and really focus on really what matters, and tell myself, actually, why can't I do 10 sets of bench press if I want to? If I want to get stronger, better, quicker at this movement, why do I just have to stick to 4 or 5 sets? Well, you don't have to. You obviously have to be careful, with your shoulders. We'll talk about this later, rotator cuff exercises, etc. If you want to preserve yourself, you have to always be very careful with warming up. Do everything that is optimized to allow yourself to do that much training on bench press. You don't want to be totally ridiculous and kill your shoulders or bench press the wrong way. But at some point, when you become more intermediate or more advanced, you're supposed to level up, and you're supposed to do what matters to improve quicker on something that you want. And if you want to be better at bench press, you have to specialize even more in what matters, and so do more sets. Right, now we're going to talk about something that is what I would like to call a quick win. Something that will make your bench improve quickly within no time. And this is your technique. Obviously, your technique really matters. If you look at power lifters and the way they arch, on the bench, this is for a reason. They're obviously putting themselves in a way that they're pretty protected. They reduce the distance between their starting point and their chest, and also put themselves in a pretty safe position. Of course, we don't want to be like powerlifters and arching like crazy, but we want the minimum of a good technical form to help us be in a safe position, in a position of power and strength, to lift heavier weights quicker. We could say that our bodybuilders who will bench with their legs up the air. This is the extreme side of bodybuilding, where I really just want to involve my chest and nothing else. And there is the powerlifters who arch like crazy, and they barely feel their chest, and they're just really here to move weight from A to B. We really want to be in the middle. I think that here our goal again is to bench as quick as possible the 100 kg bench, and we're not fully neglecting the hypertrophy part at all. We actually just using our legs on the floor, on the ground to drive the movement better, to help us bench more quicker, and we're really not neglecting the hypertrophy part. I think anyway that benching with legs up the air, if you don't really have a good technique, or you don't really know how to do it, it's probably a more dangerous position than having your legs on the ground and following basically good standard technical form. So what's the right technique for bodybuilding? Well, the first thing that I want to highlight is a slight arch with retraction of the shoulders. The arch is important not only because it reduces, slightly the distance between the bar and your chest, but also because it puts you in a safer position. The goal is to have your thoracic cage, reach as high as possible, so toward the sky, while you're laying on the bench. Your arch is maintained through a tight core, arched back, and a very active upper back position. The stabilizing muscle in the bench press are, your upper back, your lats. These muscles are literally responsible for decelerating the bar on the way down and keeping the bar with an efficient movement pattern. And these stabilizers are much easier to control and utilize when your shoulders are in retracted positions. Many people injure their rotator cuff, because they bench without retracting their shoulders, and they let their shoulders stay soft in the bench press. So this is why you really have to retract your shoulders, stay tight in your upper back position, which will automatically put you in a slight arch, which, like we said, is going to help you as well, reducing the distance between the bar and your chest a little bit, which is a plus. Now, elbows in, tucking your elbows. So where you put your elbows in the bench press literally changes the safety and power of the position. Bodybuilders will instinctively want to flare the elbows out to feel the stretch in the chest muscles, but that's not how you lift heavy weights safely. Your build is basically telling you how much your elbows should tuck. Your upper arms can't be perpendicular to your torso at the bottom in that T shape that we see in Hollywood movies. It's injury guarantees. Your elbows can't touch your torso either. So the safest and most effective way to bench press is with vertical forearms at the bottom. So basically an upper arm angle of about 75% usually works well. Start from here and work around it. Find what is comfortable and safe for you. It should take some stress off your shoulders and let you recover more effectively. The bar position when you bench press. So the natural movement after arching and tucking your elbows will be that the bar goes to your middle to lower chest area. It protects your shoulders but also helps you express your full strength. Lower the bar to your mid-chest, the middle of your breastbone, and the exact position depends on your build, grip, and arch. Long upper arms, put your elbows further from your shoulders. Now the last tip that I want to give for the technical part, in my opinion, which is very important because I use sometimes to have some sort of wrist pain, is the position of the bar in your hand palms. I want you to literally put the bar as close to the heel of the palm as possible. Most people carry the bar too far back in the hand and they get their wrist bent back. So basically you want really the pressure to go straight into your arm. You want it to have your bar, you really want to take it here at the heel of the palm, and you want the pressure to go inside the arm here. You don't want it to put pressure here, you want it really to put it inside to the prolongation of your arm basically. Remember, it's a learning process. The bench is very technical. It might sound like it's very easy, but it takes years of practice, and powerlifters, they always find a little thing that can make them improve even after 5-10 years of training. And it's the same, in bodybuilding here. The technical form, we're not gonna get it straight away from the start. There will always be something to improve. Also, morphology matters, and you aren't going to bench exactly the same way as everyone does. I gave you indications, on how you tuck your elbows, etc. But depending on your build and on your morphology, it might differ a little bit. But still, basically approximatively the good indications. Now, one advice that I want to give you is that if you're in a gym and there are powerlifters around, and good powerlifters, you should ask them to correct you and help you out with your technique. These people, they're usually here, to train seriously. They're not, the average Joe that will come just to get a little pump here and there. They're people that have good technical form, and if you're a bodybuilder looking, to improve his technique on the bench press, then ask them, ask the guy in the gym that lifts, 150, 200 posts, and that you know is a powerlifter. Ask him about your technique and how to perfect it. I'm sure he will want to help you, and you can really improve much faster this way. Powerlifters are great people that will usually help you very well on the technical side of things. Now that we talked about, implementing strengths, getting the right technique, specializing into bench press more, so really focusing on the bench press, we've really tried to gather some very important factors. I want to carry on and give you even more important informations. And here, because we talked about strengths, I would like to give you something that helped me as an intermediate or late beginner. It's a strength cycle, which I got from a great French natural bodybuilding website. So what's a strength program or strength cycle? Well, this is something that gives you proper landmarks and that usually optimized well for you to improve on a certain movement or a certain routine as a whole.